24 years ago, Grant Breitkreitz' parents Carl and Deanna surprised him by calling it quits from farming.
Mom and Dad had made a commitment to each other that when they turned 50 years old, they were either going to continue farming or look at doing something else. And to my amazement, my mom and dad decided to quit farming.
His parents went on to other things, and Grant and his wife Dawn took over the farm. They rented the land, purchased his parents' cows and calves, and started a venture called Stony Creek Farm. Today, they graze Red Angus cattle, hogs, and chickens on 465 acres of natural grass. Their 450 acres of no-till corn, soybeans, wheat, and alfalfa incorporate cover crops. But the award-winning environmental stewards weren't always so unconventional.
We started out what I would call very conventional. I mean, we did everything we could the way our neighbors did. Over the years, we learned that it wasn't really working for us, so we started looking at different methods of farming.
We were actually producing like 2 crops in 1 year to try to have enough feed, for the cattle. We fed our cows more of the year than we actually had them out on pasture because the pastures didn't work.
The couple switched from continuously grazing their pasture land to intensive rotational grazing. They set up fenced sections called paddocks and moved cattle from one to another to give grasses and resting paddocks a chance to recover.
We were still chasing production. We wanted more pounds of beef per acre. We wanted more grass per acre. And then the realization came that we had changed the soil health when bogs along the river here that we could never graze before, all of a sudden we could graze them because the rainfall was landing on top of the hills and staying on top of the hills instead of running into the bogs.
Our grass production just skyrocketed, compared to what it used to be. And all of a sudden we had this tall, lush grass going on in the pasture in the springtime. And we hadn't had that before. The best we could do is a little bit, above the ankle.
We're producing grass that is shoulder high on me with no fertilizer and no herbicide.
That's when we were like, oh my God, if we can do that where, it's under grass, why can't we start doing that out on our fields? And that's really when everything intensified and our journey really started down that regenerative path.
We started implementing many different practices on our row crop land. Added more diversity to our cropping, added cover crops in, and 10 years ago we made the switch at the last crop to 100% no-till. In our cropland, we've reduced our synthetic fertilizer over 70% that we apply. We've reduced our herbicide over 60% that we use. We're not organic. It's a long-term goal, but just doing that and still maintaining the yields, respectable yields within the county has really changed our operation.
Among their many honors, the Breitkreitz received the Regional Environmental Stewardship Award from the National Cattlemen's Beef Association.
The impact of a cow on the land, it can't be measured, as long as it's done correctly. What comes out of a cow can't be duplicated in science, in a lab, anywhere. There's so many living organisms that follow that cow, that are in that cow, that are expelled on the land, that help feed the biology in the soil. It's just unbelievable. When we started changing things, especially in the grazing system, it was really hard on my dad. He would never directly talk to Dawn and I. He would always send it through my mom, the filter. And it's like, look at those kids are wasting all that grass. And we begged Dad to come into the classes that we'd have here on the farm or the field days, the pasture walks that we'd have. And eventually my dad did come.
Yep.
And then he realized what we were doing. We weren't wasting grass, we were building fertility. That was our weed pressure program. And now my dad's the biggest champion of this of anybody. I mean,
he's pretty proud now.
He's pretty proud of it, and he does a lot of our harvest here on the farm. He's actively farming again. He loves it now, seeing what we're doing, and And he'll get done harvesting a small grain crop from me running the combine, and right away it's like, can you get the no-till drill hooked up? I got to get cover crops put in there. He knows how important that is now for our operation, is to have a living root in the soil at all times is our goal.
That root in that soil is just key. You know, it's harvesting sunlight and it's feeding the livestock we have underneath the surface of the soil. Soil's alive, and so we have to feed it.
Cover crops for wildlife around here is, I never thought I would see it in my life. I quit hunting white-tailed deer because there were none. I mean, if we'd get one every 3 or 4 years, now the guys I got out here hunting, you know, this year on 84 acres of our pasture land, they harvested 11 deer this year. We're now 120 plus deer on this farm in the winter. It's a food source for them.
The pheasants are coming back, birds that we've never seen before, the insect population, you know, the beneficial insects, just an explosion of those. It's just crazy, everything. It's like we've got a magnet here.
The bonus is feeding the livestock, our own livestock, on those cover crops. Neighbors stop and ask and look and watch, and we do have neighbors in the community that are starting to shift their practices to the way we do it. As human beings, in anything, we can decide if it's going to make it or if it's going to fail. And so it comes back to the producer having the right mindset that we're going to make this work on our farm, and we will, and they will.